This here is the R7 360, and although it released as a budget graphics card in 2015, it's quickly becoming an easy to find GPU for around 50 bucks on eBay. Today we're gonna see if it's worth it here in 2018 by benchmarking 10 games. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. Today we're going to be taking a look at the R7 360 and seeing if it's worth your money here in 2018. And if you want to see more graphics card videos or PC building videos, then hit that subscribe button down below and also that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode. But yeah, let's start checking this thing out. This specific R7 360 that we're testing today is a 2GB GDDR5 version from Pyro, and it's rocking a core clock of 1060 MHz, and it actually does support DirectX 12. A lot of websites say that this card requires a 500 watt power supply. Like most older AMD graphics cards, this thing definitely isn't power efficient, but I have read online that a lot of people say something a little bit less, like a 450 watt PSU will work. There is also a 6-pin power supply connector here, so be aware of that if you're planning on throwing this in a super budget office desktop or something. And before getting into the benchmarks, I do want to keep this introduction short. I just wanted to quickly mention that I found this card personally for $50 using the Mercari app. And after taking a quick browse through eBay at only the sold items, this card is going anywhere from $40 all the way up to $80, so it doesn't look like it's that hard to find at a good price. Our testing rig for today is rocking a Ryzen 5 2600X, which actually does outclass this budget GPU, but this way we can see exactly how far we can push this graphics card. It's also packing 8GB of DDR4 RAM clocked at 2933 MHz, and the games are installed on a 1TB Western Digital hard drive. Our first game up was Fortnite, of course, and here I personally kept the settings at 1080p and medium with an 80% resolution scale, and that yielded a nice 83 frames per second. You could crank the scale up to 100% if you wanted to, but I like to make sure I stay above 60 for games like this. Next up was CSGO, one that also requires a higher frame rate obviously, and like most of my other benchmarking videos, I put the settings at 1080p high with no anti-aliasing. Here I averaged 182 frames per second, and even the 1% low stayed at 118. Keep in mind that CSGO is definitely a CPU dependent game, so the Ryzen 5 definitely helped here. Next up was Dota 2, and here I kept the settings at high, or that third notch from the left, and here I averaged 79 FPS. Please ignore my terrible gameplay with the bots, because as you guys probably know by now, I have no idea what I'm doing in this game. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds was up next, also with some terrible gameplay mind you, and here in order to stay at 1080p, I had to crank the settings down to very low, but I did manage to score 50 FPS. This is also a very CPU dependent game, so if you're pairing this card with a more budget CPU, you're probably gonna have to knock it down to 720p. Rocket League was up next, and the R7 360 did a perfect job in my opinion with this one. I put the settings at 1080p and high quality with high detail, and I averaged a very smooth 66 FPS. Another smooth one was Grand Theft Auto 5, and in 1080p and normal settings, which is the lowest mind you, I averaged an impressive 81 FPS. Doom was up next, and I actually just beat this game finally, and I'm gonna be talking about it in my upcoming gaming series, and in 1080p low settings, the R7 360 could crank out an average of 45 FPS. Doom is about as GPU dependent as games can get, and as you can see in the upper left hand corner, the GPU is cranking away at 100% utilization. The very beautiful Sim Racer Project Cars 2 was up next. I like including this game because it looks great even on low settings with budget hardware, and in 1080p with low settings and no anti-aliasing, it averaged 74 FPS. The brand new Far Cry 5 was up next, and with the in-game benchmarking tool at 1080p and low, I only cranked out 37 FPS. Far Cry 5 is definitely a tough one to run. I was honestly impressed that it even averaged above 30, but if you want closer to that 60 FPS mark, you'll have to crank it down to 720p. And finally, our last game on this list is pretty much in the exact same boat as Far Cry 5, and that's Assassin's Creed Origins, which is very demanding to run. In 1080p and very low settings with no anti-aliasing, we could only squeeze out 29 FPS. Overall, I'm actually pretty impressed by this super budget R7 360. I never really considered this graphics card when it first came out on the market, mostly because it was just a rebranded 260, but now that it's only about 50 bucks, I would say that it's worth it as long as you have a beefy enough power supply. I personally wouldn't set out a goal of tracking one of these down for your next build, but if you happen to stumble upon a deal like I did and it fits your price range, I would go for it. Well, that wraps up my review of the R7 360 here in 2018. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section if you want to see other GPUs reviewed like this, and also don't forget that I'm doing a huge collaboration video with other tech YouTubers like Nerd on a Budget, Toasty Bros, and Tech by Matt, and a few others, so check out this video if you haven't already. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like down below to help support my channel, and as always, thank you for watching. And please subscribe for more Zach's Tech Turf videos.